I'm looking at an article in a Business Week. Remember, I talked about how you'd get all these Keynesians out there with their broken window analysis of how this hurricane is going to be good for the economy. And here's a perfect example in this story. And I'm reading from it, whether it's recovering from a war or cleanup after a natural disaster, periods of severe destruction are usually followed by sharp bursts of economic activity. Money pours in from governments and insurers to repair the infrastructure. Homes get rebuilt. Debris gets cleared. As a result, the overall economic growth that follows a natural disaster can often outweigh the wealth it destroys. Economists call this the broken window effect. To an economist, breaking a window always boosts GDP. It's all BS, all this BS, and it starts off by saying that, we're gonna make up whatever we lost based on the cost of replacing it. Again, think about the idiocy, the nonsense of a statement like that. So your house is destroyed, but it's okay because you get to rebuild it, and so you get to exert all this effort to replace what you used to have. How are you better off? Because you had to do that. I mean, think about it in its simplest terms. What if you're like, you're Robinson Crusoe and you're living on an island and you spend 6 months building yourself a hut. And now you have this hut and now you don't have to sleep out in the rain anymore. And you got a dry place to sleep and you got a nice little home base. And now because you've built the hut, you don't have to build it again because you already have it, right? And now you can spend your time. Maybe you have more time to go fishing. More time to go hunting because you've already built your house. So you've got that need taken care of. You've got the need of shelter satisfied. And now you try to satisfy some other needs. Now, let's say there's a big storm and your whole house is destroyed. Well, now, wait a minute. Now you got to spend time to rebuild that hut. Are you better off now because you have to replace your hut? Of course not, because now you got to spend time building your hut. Now you got to stop hunting. You got to stop fishing. You got to stop doing the other things that you used to do, or maybe you just have less leisure. Maybe you got to spend some time just hanging out. But now you can't do that anymore. You can't just lie on the beach and sun yourself because now you have to replace your house. And so that's the way you look at it. You have something that you built, and now it's destroyed. You are not better off because now you have to rebuild it. You're worse off because now you have to stop doing all the other things that you were doing before because you didn't have to do it anymore because you already had a house. But this whole thing is nonsense. When this reporter says, well, the insurance companies, money pours in from insurance companies. Where do the insurance companies get the money? If an insurance company has to pay a claim, where's the money coming from? Maybe the insurance company has money invested in stocks or bonds, and now it has to pay out all these claims. It's got to sell those stocks and bonds. Somebody's got to buy them. So whatever money the insurance companies put into the economy, they got to first take out of the economy. There is no net benefit. What about the government? They're saying money pours in from the government. Where's the government getting the money? From outer space? Whatever money the government pours in, they got to first suck out. They take it out of one sector and they put it into another sector. But, think about the idiots that we're churning out with economics degrees that are so stupid that they don't even have any common sense. They actually think we're better off because we had a hurricane. Now, they might try to say, well, you have the psychological, you have the loss of life, you have sentimental things. So they might say we're not better off from a human point of view, but they'll say we're better off from an economic point of view. No, we're not. That's utter nonsense, complete nonsense. In fact, if natural disasters really did make the economy better, why wait for them to happen? Why not just replicate the benefits? Why not just have controlled destruction and so we can have all the benefits without having to wait for a storm? In fact, I want to talk a little bit more about that after we get back. We'll take some more calls, 855-4-SCHIFF. We'll be right back.
Everybody expecting me to come out with another dance. I ain't gonna do it this time. I'm scared to take a chance. But I'm gonna get serious, and I ain't gonna hang you no job.
You make no friends in the pits and you take no prisoners. 1 minute you're up $500,000 in soybeans and the next, boom, your kids don't go to college and they've repossessed your Bentley. Are you with me?
The revolution starts now.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Turn those machines back on!
You are about to enter the Peter Schiff Show.
Show me the money!
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The Peter Schiff Show is on. Call in now. 855-4-SHIFT. That's 855-472-4433.
I don't know when they decided that they wanted to make a virtue out of selfishness.
Your money, your stories, your freedom. The Peter Schiff Show.
We're talking about this Bloomberg article or Business Week. I'm not really sure. It's written by Matthew Phillips about the supposed benefits of Hurricane Sandy. He ends his article. He's actually an associate editor for Bloomberg Business Week. Bottom line, Hurricane Sandy could cost the economy as much as $50 billion, but the payback from rebuilding could end up larger. In other words, it's good news. It's good news for the economy, because we get to repair the damage, which, of course, is sheer nonsense. I just talked about that using an example of a Robinson Crusoe working hard to build the hut and finally accomplishing the task, having some more time off now, free time to attend to his other needs because he's got his shelter need all taken care of. And then a hurricane wipes out his house, and he's got to start all over again. According to this economist, he's better off because he has to work that much harder to rebuild what he lost. But here's another argument or another point to make. If these natural disasters are really an economic positive, why just wait for them to happen? Why not just do them on our own? That way we can have an even bigger benefit, especially when we need it, right? When the economy is starting to weaken, we can orchestrate a disaster. And in fact, we can probably do it without any of the negative consequences, because most economists would agree that, yes, these natural disasters are good for the economy, but sometimes we lose lives, and so we shouldn't necessarily root for them. Well, I think if we design them in advance, we can take care of that problem. Why don't we have something like a national lottery? And, if you win the lottery or lose the lottery, then you have to have your house destroyed. It's going to be destroyed in a controlled demolition. But you'll have advance notice so you can take out some of your sentimental things, photographs or, things like that don't have a lot of economic value. You can't take out anything, like your furniture or your television sets. We want to make sure those are all destroyed so we get the maximum economic gain from the disaster. But, things that don't have a lot of monetary value but have sentimental value, those things you can go and you can take out. And, of course, there'll be no loss of life, but we'll just blow up these houses. And, maybe we'll have a lot of winners because we want a big stimulus. So, we want to destroy a pretty big, large number of houses so that we have to rebuild them. And, of course, you can still collect on your insurance policy. The government will pass a law to make sure that insurance policies have to pay off if you win that lottery and the government destroys your house. It's the same thing as there being a hurricane. And so, maybe insurance rates will have to go up a little bit because there's going to be so many houses destroyed every year. But, hey, that's a small price to pay for all the economic prosperity that we're going to create by demolishing all these houses. And maybe if you win the lottery, you don't just lose your house. You got to lose your car. You lose everything you own, because that way we really collect a big insurance payoff. And, maybe we can even overinsure these houses. But in any event, then imagine all the money that we'd have to spend rebuilding all these houses and replacing all the cars and replacing all the furniture and the consumer electronics. It would be great. And nobody would have to die because everybody would know in advance exactly when their house was going to be destroyed. So they wouldn't have any little kids, left in the bedrooms. I mean, it would be a much better way, a much more efficient way. And we wouldn't have to just pretend on a freak act of nature. We can have these natural disasters. I guess you couldn't really call them a natural disaster anymore. You'd have to call it a man-made disaster. But still, we can have all the positive effects of the disaster without any of the negative effects. Why hasn't the government already thought of this? I mean, it's sheer brilliance, right? It would, I'd like to hear some Keynesianists argue against this and tell me where I'm wrong, right? I mean, why wouldn't it help? Wouldn't it be if there are any Keynesians who listen to this show, if you want to call up and tell me why my strategy wouldn't work, I'd be interested in hearing from you.